Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kristen and I would like to share with you the pens and inks that I will be using for the month of April 2024. So this month I've got quite a few new fountain pens that I'll be testing out. I've got 2 pens filled with inks from my bottled ink collection. 2 pens are filled with Diamine Inkfint inks. And I've got 3 fountain pens that have ink samples from the March 2024 ink flight box. So let's get started. So this is the TWSBI Eco Primrose Gold. It has a 1.1 stub nib and it's inked up with Diamine Bah Humbug. I'm so excited to see this combination play out. I'm thinking that Bah Humbug is going to be a juicy combination with this TWSBI Eco, but we'll see. I'm hoping for the best with this 1.1 stub nib. Next up, I've got the Franklin Christoph Model 2 in Ice and Primary Manipulation 1 matte finish. And it's got a broad SIG nib. This is the other fountain pen that's got Diamine Inkfint ink in it, and that ink is Diamine Masquerade. This is my second new pen for the month. This is the Zodiac Sagittarius in Golden Abalone. It's got an extra fine nib, and I've inked this one up with Diamine Sepia from the March 2024 ink flight box. Fourth is my Jinhao 9016, another new fountain pen. It has a fine nib and it's inked up with Kobe ink number 22 Shinkaichi Gold. Next is the Shown Design full-sized fountain pen in the Peekaboo finish. This is fitted with a Monarch nib ground to a perspective by Gina Salarino. I've inked this one up with Sailor Shikiori Rikucha, and I am so excited to see that color coming from this pen. This is my new Opus 88 Mini Sakura Cherry Blossoms. It has an extra fine nib, and I won this in a Gold Spot Pens giveaway. And I've inked this one up with Van Diemen's Mandarin Duck Nape. Next is the TWSBI Diamond 580 ALR in black. It has a fine nib, and I've inked this one up with the shimmery Diamine Blue Peppermint. I'm so excited to see this ink because I didn't realize that it actually had shimmer. I just know that I already love the base color of this ink. So I'm hoping that the shimmer is just going to add to what I already like about that ink. Next up is the Platinum Perfante Night Sea with a fine nib. I've inked this one up with a bottled ink, Diamine Polar Glow. This is a very reliable fountain pen, and I figured that I would ink it up with a very likely reliable blue ink. It's got a red sheen with it, but I think that this pen is going to handle it pretty well. Next is my TWSBI Diamond 580 ALR in nickel gray. It has a medium nib, and I've inked this one up with Aurora Purple, one of the ink flight colors from March 2024. Here is the new Esterbrook Esty in Mimosa with a journaler nib, and I've inked this one up with Monteverde Elephant. It seems like a dark purple ink, but we will see how well this journaler nib works with Monteverde Elephant. Here is the Wancher Dream Pen True Ebonite, and the name of this ebonite is Marble Purple Gray. It's got a medium cursive italic nib that was ground by Kirk Spear, and I've inked this one up with Aurora Gray. I'm hoping that this is going to be a good combination to kind of help me change my perspective about this fountain pen. Beautifully juicy. I love this. That's perfect. Oh, I love that. I love that combination already. Less juicy than Bah Humbug, but still a really nice color. I love the feel of this. Oh, this feels so good. This is an extra fine. It feels like a regular fine, but it still feels really good. Oh, I love that color. Oh, that looks so good. I'm happy with these first 3 combinations. Oh, I like it. Mm. 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 Okay, so yes, the Opus 88 Mini does post. Wow. This is what I would call an extra fine. Not that one. Zodiac, that Yovo extra fine, but this is a number 6 extra fine. This is a number 5 nib extra fine. And they look completely different. This one is looking like it is very close to being a Japanese extra fine. And that looks like a fine. Let's just opus. This is writing like a fine. Oh, it is a fine. Okay. I love the color, and I can't wait to see the shimmer in this one. Finally, there's a lot of ink at the edge of this section. Lovely, straightforward blue with a red sheen. It's nice. It's so fun and bright. I love these colors. They're so nice. Oh, it's a deep purple. I kind of like it. Oh, I kind of like it. I love the contrast of this deep purple with this bright sunny yellow. And once again, I'm wearing yellow. Okay, here's the Jinhao with 2 3/4 turns. This fine is definitely fine. Almost extra fine. It's basically an extra fine, a Western extra fine. I like the color. I wonder how similar this is to Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho right here. I like this greenish gold. It looks really nice with the white pen. It's a bit rough. It writes really nicely. I really like that ink color. We'll see what I think about the actual pen. Oh, okay. Look at the shimmer on Diamond Bah Humbug and Diamond Masquerade. They just look so very nice. And the sheen, well, before I get to the sheen, let's look at, oh, yep. I like Diamond Blue Peppermint. I love that. I like that. I love the base color. I'm really, really drawn to the base color, but then that blue shimmer just adds an extra layer on top. I love that. And then you've got that red sheen on Diamond Polar Glow that kind of gives it a little purplish tint. I love that bright and fun Aurora purple. This Monteverde elephant looks almost black. It's like a purple black. These are all the writing samples on Tomoe River paper, the old Tomoe River paper. All right, so I'll do this same thing on all of these papers and my 2 additional notebooks. So I will be back. Okay, I'm back with all of the writing samples completed. This is Midori paper. This is Cosmo Air Light, Yamamoto Bank paper, Iroful paper, and Tomoe River paper, the old Tomoe River paper. Overall, the inks look pretty consistent across papers. There are a couple of inks that are a little different. Well, actually, let me keep looking. There are 4 inks that I can see so far that look a little different on each sheet of paper. So let's go through it from the beginning. Here is Diamond Bah Humbug in the Twisby Eco Primrose Gold. That is a juicy combination, and I am so excited to use this ink this month. It just looks so nice, and it feels really, really good. I love that stub nib. And comparing that stub nib with the Franklin Christoph Broad Sig nib, the Sig nib actually felt a little bit smoother than the 1.1 stub nib, and I was actually expecting it to be the opposite. Bah Humbug is much juicier than Diamond Masquerade. So Diamond Masquerade is probably not lubricating the Broad Sig nib as much as Bah Humbug is lubricating that 1.1 stub. So here, Diamond Masquerade actually does look a bit different on some of these papers. So here on Yamamoto Bank paper, it looks a bit pinkish right there. And I kind of like that shade. And I see the same or something similar on Midori paper. Diamond Masquerade looks a little bit more pink here. It's much less saturated on the Cosmo Air Light paper, Iroful paper, and Tomoe River paper. Aurora Sepia is like a reddish brown on the bank paper, but it has a cooler tone or a greenish brown actually here on Tomoe River paper. and it's warmer over here as well. And one thing that I noticed is that Aurora Sepia actually looks sepia on cream Midori paper. That was the first time that I used this ink, when I actually realized, like, oh, that is sepia. It looks sepia on cream or yellow tinted paper. I enjoyed writing with the Sagittarius, the Zodiac pen. This is a Yovo nib. This is a steel Yovo nib, extra fine, but it just feels so, so good. And it might have like a little bit of bounce to it as well. I really enjoyed that one on all papers. In general, my favorite is no surprise. It is Iroful paper. And this month, my least favorite was the Midori paper because there was much more texture. The inks felt drier overall. I didn't enjoy the feedback on Midori paper this month like I did last month. I really appreciated the Midori paper last month, but I guess I'm just in a different mood this month. So my favorite here is the Iroful paper. Okay, so moving on to Sailor Shikiori Rikucha. This does look different on multiple papers as well. It's like a deep green here on Tomoe River paper, Iroful paper, and Cosmo Air Light paper. And you can see more of a brown here on Yamamoto Bank paper and the Midori paper. Oh, let me bring these two just as an example closer up so you can actually see the difference between these two. The Sailor Shikiori Rikucha looks brown here on the Yamamoto Bank paper, but it looks green here on the Iroful paper. And you can also see the difference in color with this ink, Diamond Masquerade, between the two papers, the bank paper and the Iroful paper. Much pinker here, and it's a much more neutral, a brown color right there. After that one, we've got the Van Diemen's Mandarin Duck Nape in the Opus 88 Mini Sakura Cherry Blossoms. Now, this fountain pen, I struggled with this fountain pen just a little bit. Let me see, where did it start? I completed Tomoe River paper first, and then I did Iroful paper, then bank paper, then Cosmo Air Light, and then Midori paper was last. Next to last, on the Cosmo Air Light paper, I was having some issues with the Opus 88 Mini Sakura Cherry Blossoms. So right here is when the ink started to run out. Well, actually, it was more that the pen was starved of ink. And I was wondering if it had to do with the fact that I didn't open up the valve for the fountain pen. But even after I did that, there was a lot of scratchiness. So I tried to run, that's what it was. I was trying to figure out if the pen was being starved of ink because I had not opened up the valve just yet, or if there was an issue with the tines being too tight, because I had noticed on the very first writing sample that this extra fine is super extra fine. It looked and felt like a Japanese extra fine. This is not what I'm accustomed to experiencing with Yovo nibs. So I tried to run a brass shim through the tines of the nib, but it would not go through. So it got through maybe halfway, but then it got stuck and it just popped out. So those tines were way too tight. So I did a little bit of adjustment. I still need to do a little bit more to make sure that they're aligned now. But as far as the wetness is concerned, that wetness has been resolved. And now it writes really, really nicely, but there's still a little bit of scratchiness going on. I'll need to take a closer look at that nib to tune it and smooth it. I want to make sure that I tune it first before I start smoothing the nib, because if the tines are misaligned, I could do more damage than good. Okay, so moving on to Diamond Blue Peppermint. Diamond Blue Peppermint is a gorgeous ink. I love the ink color, and I also love the color of the shimmer as well. It is just so, so good. As a reminder, this is like a blue-green ink, but it's got a blue shimmer on top of it. And so that just, it adds a little bit of pop to it. And it looks pretty consistent across papers. And I'm so happy to say that I love it on every sheet of paper that I see right now. Diamine Polar Glow is like your typical blue with red sheen. It is very nice coming from the Platinum Prefante fine nib. I really enjoy using that fountain pen. It is just so easy, so effortless, so smooth. It is one of my favorite fountain pens, and I forget I forget how much I enjoy that pen until I ink it up again, and it's like, oh, this is why I haven't gotten rid of it, because it's just that good. Let's see, moving down to Aurora Purple, which is not purple as Amanda B would say. This is more of a magenta color, more of a fuchsia color. It looks pretty consistent across papers. I actually like the look and feel of this ink. I don't even know how to describe it. Maybe this ink is on the drier side, not a dry ink. Maybe Aurora Purple is somewhere in between wet and dry, because My TWSBI Diamond 580 fountain pens are usually wet writers, and this is a great example of it because this is a wet combination. This is more of a neutral combination, so they kind of balance each other out. Whatever they're doing, I like it. It actually looks and feels really good. Monteverde Elephant. I like this ink when it's wet, and then as it dries, it loses saturation and it loses its lightness. So it's like a really, really deep purple when it first goes down, but then it dries down to an almost black color. And on the bank paper, it actually looks gray here. It just seems like my Esterbrook SD is inked up with a purple black ink, which is not bad. It actually feels really good, and I like the experience of writing with that pen. Okay, next is Kobe ink number 22, Shinkaichi Gold in the Jinhao 9016. This is a really nice combo. I like the look of this ink coming from that white pen with the gold trim. It actually looks and feels really nice. I love this fine nib. Sometimes it feels a bit sharp, but in general, it feels really good. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it, but it's not bad. Last is Aurora Gray in the Watcher Dream pen. This italic nib feels really sharp, and there is absolutely no lubrication coming from the Aurora Gray ink. I really do love the color of this Aurora Gray. But I'm wondering if my experience is less than stellar because of my feelings toward this fountain pen and the fact that the cursive italic nib is a bit sharp. Okay, so those are my opinions on these inks so far. I was actually really inspired to write in cursive here. I had realized that this 1.1 stub nib, although it is so nice, so very lovely, it is super thick, and I was wondering what it would look and feel like if I started writing in cursive. And that is what I chose to do for all of these pens on the bank paper. So let me show you that beautiful, beautiful shimmer on those first two inks. This greenish brown of Rikucha, that super thin extra fine nib on the Opus 88, that beautiful shimmer in Diamine Blue Peppermint. It's a very faint sheen on Diamine Polar Glow on this bank paper. I think the sheen shows up the most on the Iroful paper and the bank paper. I'm glad that the sheen is more of a compliment and not something that dominates the entire writing sample. And those are the last few inks. So now that we've seen those, let's take a look at the inks in my three notebooks. Okay, first up is the Oasis notebook. It's Diamine by Humbug. The beautiful gold shimmer in Diamine Masquerade. Let's see if I can show you. There we go. Look at the shimmer. And that sepia actually looks more sepia on this cream paper. Shinkaichi Gold actually looks really nice on cream paper. And the same thing with Sailor Shikiori Rikucha. Mandarin Duck Nape in general, these inks look really nice on the cream paper. And I always love the writing experience in these notebooks because the paper is so nice and smooth. There's very little feedback on this paper. And it's pretty much the same thing here. Very little feedback in this Usari notebook. And I love the freedom that I get with this 8mm line height, because I get to write large and free and flowy. This is the cream Oasis paper, and this is it's more of a warm white Usari paper on the right. Okay, so here are the inks in my very small grid Sanzen Tomoe River paper. The inks are still beautiful and bright. Well, the only thing that I did here was I wrote in cursive here as well because I could actually fit more, and my writing is much more legible with larger nib sizes whenever I write in cursive, slanted cursive. That's what I did. It looks really, really good. I will probably be doing quite a bit of cursive, at least with these first two pens, and maybe even sometimes for the Monarch Perspective nib, because that is quite a broad nib as well, or it can be, depending on your angle. All right, so we're back here. These are the pens and inks that I will be using for the month of April 2024. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.